Welcome everybody to the second session of our February Town Hall and workshop on Marketplace with modules and custom UI and anything else. We had a session this morning, so there'll be a recording for that one as well. Lots of different content, I imagine, across the two, so feel free to watch both recordings perhaps. But good to have you guys here live, and we'll get started by quickly sort of introducing Marketplace and custom UI for those that aren't too familiar, maybe those just more joining the platform recently or just haven't managed to delve into it yet. And then we will look at a few examples. We've got Michael here today and Devon on the call, who I'm going to quickly show their sort of custom UI modules that they've been working on, and people can jump in and ask any questions. And then there's a few others as well. Sorry, we've got Helen as well on via chat. So yeah, a few examples to look at, and then we are going to attempt a sort of live demo of setting up a module, which is always a bit risky, but had a pretty clean run this morning. Don't want to jinx it too much, but all went pretty well. So yeah, we'll do that with you. It is just getting a module set up, and then obviously we can look into what you do with it after that. And we're going to run probably another session not too far away in terms of delving into a specific module and how we could take that further. So yeah, just very quickly. Basically, Marketplace is a collection of different things. It's free and paid add-ons for Siteglide projects, some developed by Siteglide, some by the community, including some Siteguru's projects as well that we've released. So the main type would be modules. That's where you have a specific sort of feature that you want to release and install onto multiple sites. So things like blogs, that's a Siteglide one. Gallery coming pretty soon. That's something we're going to release just as a basic one, and no doubt people will do their own iterations. A booking system that Michael's going to show briefly, and all sorts of things after that. I'll show you some more examples. And then other types would be where we use the site copy feature to literally copy a whole site. So we've got some templates like the portal template, landing page, site, marketing site, those kind of things. And people could create their own templates to copy from. You can either use them internally or you could make them available publicly as well on the Marketplace. Next up, we've got themes. I'll run through this a bit quickly. We've done many town halls and discussions on this before, but sort of design systems and templates to help you build out sites running off sort of a modular system. So Flowbyte and SoftUI are the main two. Integrations, we've got a CRM sync that I'll show you briefly, but you could have all kinds of integrations as a module as well that are installable. And then finally, code snippets. If anybody has any other ideas or building something and it doesn't fit into one of those categories, just let us know, and we can add a category in very easily. Yeah, just jumping into a few examples. Sorry, before that, the bit that maybe people are less familiar with is sort of custom UI. It's been there a long time now, but maybe we didn't push it enough, and it's hard to know how people are going to use it. But essentially, it's your ability to customize the back end of Siteglide, the admin area, and bring either external things in or create a new way of displaying web app data, for example, or all sorts of things. So I'll show you a few examples that use custom UI as well, but just think of it like sort of a front-end secure zone at the back end. So rather than having to separately go to the front end, log in and do everything there, you can kind of run it all from the back end, feel very integrated, and essentially give the customer, maybe your customer, a more integrated, connected feeling. If you just want them to do one particular function, you could have it all running from there rather than having to go to lots of different web apps maybe. So yeah, I'll show a few examples that explain that sort of show off the benefits of that. First up, we will have a quick look at Site Builder. I have shown this many times, and there's probably loads of other videos that you can look at for this, but it just gives a good idea of what custom UI is. So I'll show that very briefly, and it's actually going to be the basis, for helping you build modules. I'll explain what's coming next, but it's going to help you help speed up the process of building custom UI, especially where you can just grab sections, and things like forms and CRUD processes would all be much simpler using that. Next up that I'll show will be quickly a summary of the personalization modules that Helen from MCOM Design has been working on. I know she's shown those a few times before, perhaps in videos and on town halls, but having a look at those, she's also got quite a few new ones, including an analytics dashboard, which is a great example of how you could use custom UI to bring in reports from external tools like Google Looker, and give your customers maybe a dashboard of their metrics of how their site's doing. I get asked that question all the time of whether that's a feature in Siteglide, and we could spend a whole load of time building it, and we'll constantly be trying to adapt it to every customer's needs, whereas custom UI fits in perfectly for that in terms of what you might want to be able to do with it. And then Devon's affiliate tracking module, he released a video on that recently in Discord. If you've not seen it, worth having a look, but I'll quickly show that one off as well. Next up, Michael is going to quickly show his booking module. That's a great example as well. Both of these are examples of how you can use custom UI to sort of simplify the management back end. So I think looking at those quickly will be really good. And then finally, again, just highlighting that we've got the CRM sync tool, not really related to custom UI as such, more for just an integration type module. So yeah, let's quickly go off and have a look at those. Firstly, we've got Site Builder. I'll fly through the ones I've shown before a little bit, and then we can delve into some of the others. But Site Builder is, if you haven't used it, a tool for helping you build out sites and build site-wide functionality. This bit here, this section, is all custom UI. So you have total control over what this looks like. It's been branded to kind of fit in with Siteglide, but you could literally do anything you like with it. Something that's a little bit different and something to showcase is the fact that you can build pages within it. So these are tabs that help you sort of sift through the different features and pages of Site Builder. A good example of something you might do there in your own is you might have like a settings page that you want to keep completely separate from the sort of core functionality of the module itself. But yeah, this just shows how you can easily do things like we can put modals in there as well. You can use it to build out functionality, not just showcase data from a web app or something. So there's lots of different things that you can do with custom UI. This is just one of them. Moving on quickly, there's one I'd like to show. Actually, I'm going to do it in a slightly different order. Devon has to head off shortly, so I might just show his quickly in case you guys have any questions for him. So Devon has been working on a affiliate tracking module. I'll let you jump in and then explain more if you want to, Devon. I'll just kind of do a quick summary and demo. This is using custom UI. So from modules, you can click affiliate analytics and it takes you to this custom UI user interface where the customer can see data that's kind of pulled together mainly from two different web apps. So looking here, we've got some data stored in those two web apps, but rather than having to go into it and manage it here, you've got this nice user interface to be able to filter, search, export, all that kind of stuff, and show exactly what's happened, both in terms of traffic and sales data. You can also manage the members, like the actual affiliates here as well, and what commission they might get. Again, Devon's explained this really well in a video. I'll just show you the front end quickly and then let people jump in with questions. So just from this front end, you've got this just a little bit of code you'd need to add to the URL to set the referrer. You'd probably only send this out once maybe in an email or something, and then it sets a cookie and takes over from there. So you could then, once I've been on this page, I can then completely get rid of that from the URL. I can add an item to the cart. This is all static at the moment. It's just an example.
Yeah, I can just mention real quick,
sure.
It uses local storage. So because cookies are, sorry, I don't know if thing froze.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it uses local storage. So if somebody comes into we were trying to figure out a solution that didn't rely on third-party cookies. And so if somebody comes into the site via that referral link, and then later on they go and they come into the site again, but they don't come in through the referral link, the credit is still tracked because local storage retains that ID, the refer ID. So it's pretty persistent across a number of scenarios.
Exactly. I don't know whether you have a cookie lifetime or anything like that, but that's something you might be able to control from affiliate rules perspective. That's something you can add to it perhaps. But yeah,
Devin,
so
the same way that cookies work in terms of if somebody cleared their browser cache, it would also delete that as well, right? Or
It's
does it
actually
stay?
more resilient. Matt, you might be able to chime in on this better, but I believe that like if they opened it in a new browser, right? Like they come in through the referral link, then they open the site in Safari or some other browser, then that would not retain because they never came in to Safari via that referral. But no, it's like I'm pretty sure somebody would have to actually remove it from the local storage. And local storage is supported across really old browsers. So that's part of why we did it that way.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the
if you clear your browser cache, UI, it would clear it.
Yep. So that's what would remove it. And then it doesn't do cross device tracking. So I mean, I'm not going to know if you pull out your phone and you start looking at the site on the phone. Now, if you came in through the referral link on your phone, it would track that. Right. So it's pretty but it's like a end around the whole third-party cookie, like affiliate tracking software has kind of had a bit of an existential crisis recently because of all the privacy stuff.
Right.
So this is an alternative to that. And then as far as the sales data, that's pulling from the form. We're adding a class to a form, and then it's tracking any sales that come in through that form. So in this iteration, Luke is showing a shopping cart, but you could set this up when we install the module. We could say, all right, we want it to track sales across all forms and your shopping cart, any basic payment forms, a specific form. Like you could be quite targeted with it if you wanted, or just very broad as far as what sales data it pulls in. And then it does the little math in the dashboard on calculating the commission. So if Luke is supposed to earn if Luke's supposed to earn, what is it, 10%? What are you earning, Luke?
Yeah, affiliate members 10%.
He's earning 10%, but Luke could earn 15% and Matt could earn 20%. But it just calculates the commissions for you so you could see it. The other thing I'll just quickly mention, because it's kind of nerdy and Luke might not know it, is what we didn't want is to create a gazillion records, right, in those two web apps that he referenced. So the referral traffic one is the one that gets updated. So what we're doing is we're saying, if you go to filter by date, Luke, you'll see you can filter by the month. So every month gets a record created. So like refer Luke has a record created for the month of February. Sorry, he's looking at an older version. There's a new version where you're filtering by month. Like you can filter by February, March, April, whatever months you want. But the point is, what we're doing is we're creating like one web app item for all of Luke's visits that he drives in the month of February. And then we're creating another web app item for all the traffic he drives in March, versus 100 like separate web app items for every single individual visit. So that count just gets updated every time traffic comes in for that month. And then in March, there'll be a new item created and that count will start from 0 and it will be updated each time. That way we're not creating like hundreds and hundreds of records in this web app, and then you have a usage issue or something like that. So it should scale pretty well, even on a site that doesn't have a lot of usage.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, thanks, Devin, for adding there. Yeah, so it's a great example. I think if you just try and manage everything from here, it works, but it's much nicer to give the end customer a UI to manage it all, I think, and there's lots you can add in there that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do from the standard UI. Any questions at all from anybody else on this one?
Oh, Helen makes a good point. If you're going to actually create referral links, like don't actually use people's real names. Yeah, I guess that definitely comes down to privacy issues, because the names would show up in Google Analytics in the query string. So yeah, some kind of ID or some kind of like a first name and an ID or something like that might be a better practice. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you can control in the code, and you'd be able to tweak easily, I imagine. Yeah, great. One other thing I wanted to mention is that yes, you've built this, I think, specifically for a project in the first case, but it's something that you've turned into a module, and if anybody's interested in using this, just reach out to Devon, have a chat with him. And from my perspective, I want to see people reusing and sharing really valuable tools, because it's just a shame to see them only used once. So it'd be great to see people collaborating on these kind of modules. Yes, just reach out to Devon separately. But if there's anybody's got any other questions now, feel free to shout. I'll just get the next one prepared.
Yeah, great job, Devin.
Yeah,
Thanks.
looks good.
Thanks to Josh. Yeah, Josh Carter, also a huge part of this.
Cool. Yes, if you like, Michael, feel free to demo your booking system if you'd like.
Sure.
I'll let you share screen. Hopefully you can. Cool.
Cool. You guys see that? And gals?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a client basically wanting a very simple booking system, and as opposed to using a all-in-one where people can go and pay for stuff, sometimes they didn't need something that complicated. They just needed to be able to take one of their, they have several properties. They wanted to be able to take that out of inventory so people knew that, when it was available or when it wasn't available. And then they wanted to give people, their users, the ability to request a booking. Just fairly straightforward, simple procedure. So, for example, I'll pick this one first so you can kind of see how, and Josh did a lot of heavy lifting on this. Give shout out to him, of course. So each one of these properties, it basically lists a calendar. And in that calendar, it shows, where the reservation is booked. In this case, this reservation is closed for the season. So obviously that's why everything's red and you can't select anything. But if we go and choose, we'll pick on this guy. And let's say I wanted to make a booking around from the 1st to the 3rd, I think is what this is going to do. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to send an alert to my client, but basically I would fill out my name, put my email address in, phone number, and then a mailing address, and go through the verification. And then that would send this request and this date to the client, my client, and it would show that I'm wanting to make a booking on this date, and it would come through in the back end. So if we look at, we're going to just create the booking in the back end. So my client would get a notification, workflow notification saying, Michael is trying to book March and so on. So this is a manual booking system. And then what they would do is they would go in and they would block out that date. And I'll say Big Fish test. And then that would save that booking. And so it shows basically the dates that, you know, are listed. And then I think if we go back to this and get reload, there it is. So now the end user, another end user would come along and go, okay, no, I can't book on those dates. One of the things that in working with this, we expanding it, we really want, I mean, we have two abilities to manage the booking and view the booking. So you can kind of view a list of bookings. I believe this is exportable, you know, so you can export it out into a spreadsheet, that kind of thing. But also we want the visual aspects where we can go into like a calendar and look at a calendar and we can kind of see where our properties are, you know, who's booking them and so on. So if we go to March, there's my test. I can pop that up and I can edit it, you know, I can delete it, I can change a day. Like let's say we want to add, let's see, we want to start here, we want to add here, and we do edit booking. So like, you know, the client says, I want to stay extra days. I really like this place. So it'll automatically update that in real time, pretty much up for 10 days or 20 days or something like that. I can't remember what we talked about. The client also, the end customer will also get a booking request form. I mean, you could set it up to where, you know, your request has been given, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And then the same with the customer, they're going to get a workflow saying that this person is, you know, made this booking and away they go. So, and again, this should have updated, I think in real time here, once we made that booking, and there it is. So that's pretty much it, I think, for this booking. Again, it's a very simple module. But as what Luke was saying, the advantage of going with the module is you can really create an interface for your customer. Because like when they're working with a web app, you know, you kind of have to teach them, you know, go to the record, pull up the record, or do a search on that. There's some limited interaction that they have to do when they're working on the web app. But with a module, you can really customize the look and the feel and have all the same power that you have on the web apps. And so that's I think the nice thing about how the module, you know, approach is versus, you know, just using a web app and having some pages that they can interface with online on the front end. So that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And some of it's UX and improving the experience, but actually you can do more processes in one as well. So you could actually send off workflow at the same time, or you could get it to update something else because you've kind of got more control over what's going on the page. It's essentially, like I said, like you're doing it in a secure zone front end. There's a lot more that you can do front end than you can in the admin area normally. So this kind of gives you best of both. But yeah, exactly. It's a really good one to see. It's you said it's simple, but I think simplicity is a positive in the sense you're making it nice and easy to use. But there's a lot going on, and it's a really valuable tool.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And I imagine we could integrate it, you know, with like an event, you know, thing. Right now, it goes into the booking module. Or I'm sorry, booking form. So like on the forms, it would create a listing under the bookings. And so that's, I believe it would be in there. Oh, maybe not. Oh, no, that's because I didn't actually physically book it. That's why I'm not there. But anyway, it would create that. And so it can interface with a form or module, but you could do it like you could make an event where, you know, you're showing an event and you could probably, you know, configure it to where, you know, you have people signing up for an event, they see the dates, they see the availability, and they book the event that way using, you know, this kind of module integration. So it was very
That's
well
actually
done.
that's actually the really tricky bit when planning out modules. We wanted to put together a specific type of module for this this workshop, for example, and it's very hard because the brief totally defines what you build. And if you wanted to release a booking module, for example, on the marketplace, as you've said, Michael, is it going to use events? Is it going to be custom? You need to kind of probably have something fairly generic that's customizable, and then maybe a few different versions for different use cases. So it's I think we're going to hopefully see a lot more happening over the next months and throughout this year of ideas and different use cases coming into the marketplace and different starting points. So it's quite exciting, I think.
So what about payment, Michael? How's that part?
Yeah,
And
for this client, they take the payment themselves. So they'll call the client back and they'll say, you know, here, this is how much you owe. They previously had it to where they were taking it through Stripe. And I think you could probably integrate a system with it. It might have to be, again, because the module could interface a lot with web apps, but you'd probably have to interface it a little bit, you know, do a little bit of more heavy lifting to get it. For this client, they didn't want to take the payment up front. They wanted to kind of do it the way they were doing it in old school, like where people would send them a contact form and they would say, I want to book this property. And then they call them back and say, okay, it's available, or no, it's not available. Here's the other date. This way just takes it a little bit step further and allows them to visually see when the property is available. And then it creates a workflow and it creates, you know, a back end that then my client can go and see, okay, this person wants to book here and so on. And then they'll take the transaction offline, you know, through a credit card processing. But I'm certain you could eventually, you know, integrate it with some kind of a checkout option. The difference with it, with the checkout option, it kind of has to be real time, where this isn't real time, meaning that the request comes in and then it's sent to the customer. The customer reviews it to sees the availability and then sends a form back to the client saying this is available or it isn't available. Because it's not real time, the checking out, you know, taking the money up front is kind of not practical and not doable because it's not in real time.
yeah. So what would
But
it
you can
take to
send them to like a
automate the
payment
whole
gateway
process?
page. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, what would it take to automate the whole process? Could you build on this to automate it, or was this built specifically as a manual process and that's it?
This was built specifically as a manual process. And so a lot of the booking platforms that are out there charge you like a fee for each property. And then they have extra things that sometimes not everybody uses, like, you know, Airbnb, they may not use, you know, they may not want to open that up. So you're paying all these extra additional add-ons. I mean, my client was up to like almost $1,200 a month and they only had something like 30 properties. And so it was just ridiculous. And they were just going, all we're really doing is, you know, taking the money up front is nice, but they can kind of send people to a payment page and they can get the, you know, credit card, they can book the, you know, they can get the payment up front right away. To make it automated, I think you'd have to integrate it more with Stripe and things like that. But again, this is just a simple booking engine. You know, another example is you could probably use it for, like, if you were a speaker, you know, giving out a 30-minute, you know, tutorial on something. You could provide a calendar information of dates of showing where you are available and people could, you know, book those dates and that kind of thing. You could kind of
Or
integrate
like
it.
a Calendly thing, you know, possibly.
Yeah, kind of like a Calendly thing. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, this we purposely didn't set it up where it was real time and where we could take the transaction, just because it was just a simplified booking engine for people to use and to visually, again, give availability, you know.
Yeah.
I think generally you could narrow it down to say that it depends where the source of truth is on the availability. So if the back end was the source of truth on the availability, then you could let people even request a date from the front end of the website, and it could check whether that's available, and it could block it out there and then. And if that was the only way that people could book, you'd know that there's availability. But it obviously gets trickier when you have other systems like Airbnb running as well. So I think depending on the use case, you could easily automate the whole process using this or something very similar, where the front end form blocks out the dates automatically. Then there's a manual step to approve them, I guess, and take the payment. Unless you did want to take the payment automatically. Yeah, I think there's lots of different ways of doing it, and there would be no reason why you couldn't run it all through the one system.
Yeah, good job, Michael.
Thanks again. Josh did all the heavy lifting here, so.
He couldn't join us today, unfortunately. He's having a much needed day off, but
Well, we got Matt in the house.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Matt's gonna help me run through a demo shortly. So all went well this morning. Good. Well, yeah, thank you again, Michael. That's really good to see that one. I think bookings, it was such a big topic in the last town hall. Everyone seemed keen to see a booking module, so it's great to actually kind of see what it looks like.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot to expand with it too. So I mean, this is very beginning phase as well too.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Okay, I'll just show a couple more things quickly. I've got one from Helen now that's a little bit more interactive. So we have where am I? A page here, which I'll put the URL in the chat, but effectively, it's always hard to share and get to the chat. I'll just have to stop sharing. If I put this in there, then if you guys go to that, depending on where you are in the world, it should show a different homepage banner. So I'll just put that in there now. So I don't know what different people are seeing, but I'm seeing English football teams on the left in the picture. Has anybody got anything different?
Pulling it up now.
Cool.
So in Texas, I get some football uniforms, Cowboys, Packers, that kind of thing.
So I've got soccer, sorry.
You're in America, right? Yeah, I get the same kind of thing where I see football jerseys, and that's kind of cool.
Canadian specific or?
No, it's the colors of some teams, like green. You kind of see the Green Bay Packers and Patriots, Dallas Cowboys.
So this is an
example. Not see any Niners there. Come on, man.
So just showing this module quickly. This is one, Helen's got a range of personalization based modules, and this is the location based module. So what this does is it works off a web app with some settings. So things like deciding whether it's country based, there's some default data and content that's shown, and then there's some specific stuff. So if you're in Canada, it uses a tool, can't find it quickly, but a tool to work out your country code. And if you're in Canada, then you get certain information. US, slightly different. GB, UK, and France as well, I believe, and Australia. So different, you can do translations this way, and obviously show different content to people based on where they are. There's a whole range of modules that Helen's got as part of her personalization hub, things like language-based and persona data that they might have filled in from a form perhaps. So there's a lot of different things that you can do in terms of manipulating the front end. This was just a nice example to show quickly to sort of personalize. And I think personalization can really become a big element of the marketplace, and it can tie into some other modules, perhaps how you can tap into the CRM side of things and tweak content based on using Liquid, perhaps. So one to show there. I just wanted to show one other quickly, which is the analytics dashboard. And I think this is the one that from recent discussions and questions, I think this is definitely of interest for people. So this is a CustomUI module. It's effectively pulling in data from Google Looker on this module. From a specific report, let's say, but you could obviously fully customize what you display here. Data from a specific account and control how it's displayed. One thing I'll be explaining in a minute in terms of how we want to take CustomUI further and modules further is that you might want to put this dashboard as the first thing that people see on the site, for example. So rather than having the sort of standard dashboard, you'd be able to go straight to this. And that's something I know, Tim, you mentioned in the last town hall. Would we have the ability to update the menu? That's most definitely something we want to focus on earlier this year. And it would just open up so many opportunities to essentially turn Siteglide into a specific solution rather than the solution that kind of has everything. You could make it very specific and use user roles to lock it down to only let you, maybe only let you view reports or only let you manage your bookings, for example. So yeah, that's a couple of things there. I'm just going to double check check the chat. I'm sure Helen's perhaps helping me out with what to show. Let's have a quick look. Yes, so Helen got the Canadian jerseys. I'm just seeing from the chat. A couple of other things to show very briefly. There's just there's a campaign URL builder. Again, this is an example of where you can use CustomUI and the Siteglide UI together. So what we have here is the standard view and then the custom view. So that would allow you to switch between the two, because you might have certain things that you want the Siteglide UI to handle. You might not want to rebuild the table, for example, but you might use the custom UI to do something else. So yeah, quite a few different things going on there, but it's really powerful what I think you could do with some of the personalization things. So do reach out to Helen if you would like some more information on that. Any questions at all so far on any of the examples we've shown? Okay, knowing how short we were for time earlier on, I think I'll keep moving and jump into the demo. So what we're going to attempt to do quickly is try and show how to get set up with building a module in the marketplace, but also custom UI, which is something quite new. So the first part of this is kind of determining how you get started, and we've got like a boilerplate template to get started that just saves you having to do all of the basic settings and setup. So we would definitely recommend starting from that, and that's the route I'm going to show you now. So I'll just run through it quickly, and then we'll go off and actually create a module. So what you do is you go to that template, that GitHub repo. There might end up being multiple ones. Other people might have their own templates to start from, but we'll go to a GitHub repo, we'll copy it, use it as a template and create a new repo. From there, we will create the module in Siteglide. So just giving it a name and version and category, those kind of things, and linking it to your GitHub repo effectively. Once we're done with that, we do a few extra settings just to hook it up fully. So we just update the module ID so that it's linked to your repo to the new module that you've created. And then finally, we've got a few steps for just setting, well, one step really to set up CustomUI, just to turn it on and make it appear in the left-hand side of the menu. And then we can test it out and talk about all the different customization that we could do to make it, to work out what you're going to build and make it really powerful. So let's just jump in now. This is the repo that I'm talking about. We'll share this link. Obviously, it'll be in the docs and it'll be available for you guys to start from. There's actually one more. We're making some improvements to how this all works, and we're going to have a way that it'll integrate really nicely with Site Builder. So more on that shortly, but this is definitely how to get started at the moment. You would click use this template, create a new repository. You'd be logged into your GitHub account, assuming you have one. Just need to create a free account. You don't need a paid one or anything like that. And then the repo, I'm going to just grab the name of I've got a site set up specifically for this session. So I'm just going to grab that just so that we know the name of it and create that repo. Matt, I'm sure you'll jump in if I get any of this wrong, but hopefully
yeah, I think you've got it now.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully. So that's taken a copy of the boilerplate repo, and this is my own version of it. So it's generated from the Siteglide boilerplate. So from now, what we need to do is we need to go off to the site, go off to Siteglide itself, go to Marketplace, and we need to create a new module. So click on Create Module. I'm going to give it the same name again, just to help us find everything. Category is module. You could pick a different type, but most cases I imagine you're going to be working on a module if you're doing, especially if you're doing custom UI. I'll just put the description in there. For now, I'm going to leave show menu item unticked, and I'm not going to do the custom UI side of things. I'm just going to set it to be standard, just to prove the point. Version, totally up to you, I believe, but it's probably best to start with 0.0.1 and then work up from there. Then you need your GitHub repo account. So you just come back here and it's your, whatever your account is in GitHub effectively. So I'm just going to type that one in 1 second. And then the GitHub repo name we created here. It might be case sensitive. No, I think it's exactly that. So we've got that there. So I now should be able to save this new module. You've literally just only got to add in those details, and we can hit save, and we've created a module effectively. What we need to do is we need to hook it up properly to the repo, because we've now got an ID for this module. It's under vanity ID, but it's effectively module ID. So we've got 150. What you need to do is, you could do it in GitHub directly. They've got their own code editor, but I imagine most people use something like Visual Studio Code, and that's what I'd recommend doing. So you just open Visual Studio Code, VS Code. You can clone a Git repository, clone from GitHub, and you'll see here I've done a few, but session 2. Got to just pick somewhere to put that. So just going to put it in here. You just create a folder essentially and choose where to store that repo on your site, on your computer, sorry. Select that destination and then open it. So then that's going to give us that session, that repo locally, effectively. And what we need to do is we just need to update 2 things really. Any reference to the module ID, sort of my module ID it says, and we need to update the folder structure as well. So you'll see here, this is the kind of folder structure. If I move it across a bit, we just need to update that to have our new ID in there. So you just remove all of my module ID and replace it with 150 in our case, because that's the module we've just created. Click enter, that's going to update that folder structure. And then what we're also going to do is go edit, replace in files, and we're going to look for my underscore module underscore ID. That's what's in there in the template, and we just need to replace that with 150. So you'll see all the different places, all the different files within this repo or code base that it's going to update, and we can just click update here. So that's made those changes. All we then need to do is, if you're used to GitHub, then you just do a commit. I'm going to say update module ID as the commit. Say yes to that, and then just sync those changes. So we should find, once you've made those changes, we can jump back to the repo itself, and if you refresh, you should see that there's now a commit that's been done called update module ID. I can see the 150 there, and if just to double check, you can go in and check that it all looks good, but you'll see module 150 in various places. They've all been updated. So that means that we are ready. We've hooked up the repo with the module itself in the marketplace, and we're now ready to install that module. One thing just to keep in mind is whenever you make any changes, so effectively anything in the repo that changes, you just need to update the version number just to get the latest, so it saves the latest. So if we just set that to 2.
One other thing I'll just jump in and mention, you do need to make sure that Siteglide can view your repository. So if you've got it set to public, that's absolutely fine, as Luke's one is. If you've set it to private in the settings in GitHub, then you would need to also add API@siteglide.com as a collaborator. That's in the docs.
Yeah.
Is there an advantage or disadvantage to doing public versus private, Matt?
I mean, if you have some intellectual property, like if you're selling the module, you probably don't want to let it be public because somebody can just copy that module code and install it on their own site for free. But if you are, well, giving your module out for free on Siteglide Marketplace, and you actually want people to look at the code as an example and maybe even contribute and collaborate with you, then you can leave it as public. Sometimes we create the module as public when we're setting up, and once we've got the ID and added it and everything, we make it private later. But yeah, it's up to you. It depends whether you've got intellectual property in there or not.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Good rule of thumb. If you want it to be free, make it public. If you want to sell it, then make it private. Sure.
I suppose the other
But what you're saying is developing it under public first, then switching it to private after the development is done is a little bit easier than having to add the API dependency, blah, 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 that you were saying, or does it matter?
Yeah, I wouldn't do any. Yeah, when we do that, is literally the setup bit before we write any actual code, because we're not this boilerplate stuff. We're not worried about other people seeing. But I wouldn't. Yeah, stick to that simple rule of intellectual property. The only other thing is if maybe you do want to collaborate with other people you trust, but maybe it's like an e-commerce module or something like, or secure zones module, you might not want that source code available for everybody to see in case it sort of helps malicious users figure out a way to attack it. So that might be another reason why, even if you want to collaborate with other people in the using Siteglide, you might not want it completely public if it's sensitive in some way.
Yeah, okay.
Could you just confirm again, Matt, how you would add collaborators to a private?
Yeah,
repo?
so we go to settings, and the collaborators is at the top on the left. It's asking you to just confirm, and like that's just an extra security step. And it would be pretty easy. Once you get in, you just add an email address, add people. So API@siteglide.com.
Yeah.
There's no harm in doing that. Obviously, that we use a seat. So GitHub's pricing is seat based. So Luke should be able to add that absolutely fine. But if your organization already has all their seats full, it might need you to upgrade, which is the other reason why sometimes we might temporarily put it public, and then when we have got an extra seat added, we then put it private.
Great, thanks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I think we're set up in terms of the repo. We've got the module itself set up. Let's go across to the site and install it. So I've purposely not done the custom UI setup yet. This is literally just the module. I'll just refresh this site itself. We'll go to modules, down to Marketplace. You'll see I've done a few. We're going to install session 2, which is the one we've been working on. Obviously, you can control the branding and everything. So you'll see that there's no image or there's not much text here. When you're in the module itself, you can control everything under Marketplace details. So determine what the buttons do, put some images in, and obviously manage the description as well. Yeah. Hopefully fairly self-explanatory. So that's installed that module with version 2. If we go through to the admin, we'll find that we don't have, I think, let me just refresh.
Because you didn't make it available in the list, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So you can control whether it shows or not. So if we go back to here, I've set it as standard. So if we now do show menu item, and we make that the name. We don't have to update the version for that, do we, Matt? It's only if you're making changes to the actual repo code base.
That's right. In theory.
Yeah, so in theory, you might have to reinstall it. I'm not sure. Yes. Maybe
no.
not. We'll find out. No, you don't. There's a bit of a long name there, which doesn't work so well. But we've got that now shows, and it shows the standard UI for it. So you'd be able to add items and everything as usual. That's actually something we were going to show briefly. I'll do that now, and then we'll come back to it shortly. But you'll see a few fields here. We'll reference those just in a second when we go and look at them on the code side. So let's just jump back to the module. Let's set that as a custom UI. And here you just need to set the custom UI path. So it's modules / module _ID / then whatever the page is that you're that you want to start from. So we'll do modules _ module _ 150. And then in Visual Studio, you'll see, where's it gone? Where's the other one gone? 1 second.
You might have 2 different windows open, or you might just click the file explorer icon on the top left. Because
oh yes, that was it. Sorry,
you've got no working changes in Git, so that the Git one will then be empty, and you go to Explorer to see all your files.
Yeah, thank you. This bit threw me. So yes, we'd be able to look in here, and the pages, you'll see that we have index.liquid. So just popping back over to here, we'll put index in here. So we're linking to the index file, and that's all you need to do to set up custom UI. Let's click save. And then again, we should be able to just click off. Let's refresh this site. And then clicking Marketplace, Workshop. And now there's an error. What's happened here? Just, I probably got something wrong here. 150.
I've not seen an error before. It didn't happen this morning.
Let me just do an update in case that helps. Let's double check what we've got in here. Did module 150.
Did you?
Back to the side. What I will do is go to one that we worked on earlier just quickly. I think it's probably the easiest here. It's exactly the same. We did it in the earlier session and we've got it recorded. So you can always jump to that one. But 1 second.
The joys of a live presentation.
Exactly. You'd think it'd be the first one, but not sure what happened there. So just I'll pull it up again. Here we go. So this is workshop session 1, and if we click here, you'll see that we've got the custom view loading. This is where I did an example of running both. So if we just jump out of here, go to Marketplace, we go to the first module that we worked on this morning, session 1. In here, you'll see that it's set up as both UI type, both. Yeah, so this is a very, very basic custom UI. Obviously, it is literally whatever you put in this index file. You can add more files and pages or change them, but you're literally set up. This is the framework to now build whatever you want the custom UI to be and whatever you want it to hold. And it's pretty normal now, working as you would in normal Siteglide front end stuff. There's a few things that I think Matt will go into quickly about the sort of namespacing and how to set it all up correctly. One thing I'll show as well was in setup.json, we've got this standard kind of setup where you can set up the fields that you want to exist in the module. So when we looked at it on the standard view, for example, we can do the view table. And you'll see under custom fields, this is one that didn't have that, but I showed you briefly. I'm glad I did. Showed briefly those.
They'll be under standard fields because.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The one benefit of making your module with some standard fields instead of custom fields is that the agencies that install your module can still install custom fields, but your core functionality that your module does can rely on the core fields existing, and you know what their names are, you know what their types are, So it's helpful to have those tucked away in standard fields for your own functionality, and then let people add on to it later.
Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. So yeah, you'd see those here, and yeah, as normal, as Matt said, you'd be able to add your custom fields. So I think over to you, Matt, quickly, just to explain maybe some of, we're going to, as I mentioned, we're going to do another session on what to do after this, effectively, in another workshop or session that we put on. I'll just explain one more bit actually before we do that about what's coming and how it'll help you kind of see where you can take this, because a blank page or hello world is is something, but it's obviously then quite a bit of work potentially to build out something like the booking module that we just looked at. So to help tackle that, what we're doing next, what we've got planned for Marketplace and Custom UI, is to expand Site Builder to effectively become Module Builder as well. Things like just the basic UI area, and most importantly, things like tables and CRUD tools. So add item, edit item, those kind of things that Michael showing and Devon's one as well. Those kind of things, we just want to have them out of the box for you, that they just work. You can install them from Site Builder, and you can very easily just get started from something that already exists. It's, I don't know if this is technically the right term, but it's effectively like an SDK. It's a library to build modules from. You're obviously completely welcome to do your own thing and start from whatever you want, but this should save a lot of time and make things easier for you. Alongside that, we're going to do a few other changes. One is site modules, so it's exactly the same, but just rather than having to put it in the marketplace, we want to allow you to just make them per site. So you might just literally want to do something very specific to a customer, and you can just set it up for that site and not have to worry about the marketplace side of things. One big one, Tim, I know you're on the call. This is something that we spoke about and you shared in the last town hall. The ability to, as we've briefly mentioned, edit that left-hand side menu and control the back-end admin area. That opens up huge opportunities, really. So with user roles, you've already got the ability to kind of hide and show, but what would be really nice is to be able to put in a new top-level item or just completely change it. As I said, like maybe the first thing that people see is a report rather than the current dashboard. So definitely want to bring that in, and kind of on top of that, working out or allowing you to put custom UI anywhere. So one good example there would be if you could do custom UI on pages, you might be able to add your own SEO module for pages so that people could quickly use AI to suggest some better content for SEO, or you could put it on CRM or e-commerce products or wherever you want, really, so that you've got more control over where custom UI can appear. And obviously, whatever you guys would like to see as well, as you're working on something, you might have a great idea for how to expand the marketplace, how to expand modules and custom UI. Just let us know. I think we know of some good changes already, but we only really know of them from the work we've been doing. So I think as more and more people get stuck into modules, I think we'll find out what's missing and what can be improved, and we always want to help with that. So just let us know. I think I'll quickly pass back over to Matt just to show some of the explain a little bit about the code side. As I say, we're going to go into more detail on that in another session. We were conscious of time. It ran sort of nearly 2 hours in the last call, so I managed to get it down a little bit. But Matt, do you want to just briefly sort of explain how people would go about coding a module and any differences to normal development?
Yeah, so okay, we'll start on this page. So you can see at the top of this page, in between the triple dash and another triple dash, is the section of the page called YAML. This is it's on all your Siteglide pages, but normally the admin hides it from view. It's just sort of where all the metadata for the page goes, and this just contains some extra security. So if you were to create some more pages for your custom UI, just copy the same security to all of them, and you can just change the slug for each page. There's something called also, you want to think about, do you want these pages that make up your custom UI to appear on someone's site? Generally, you wouldn't want them to. And that's why, in this case, if you look at the folder structure on the left, we put them inside modules, module 150 private views. This is different from most of your site's pages, page templates, and layouts would all go inside a marketplace builder views. This is a sort of compartment that you would put your module code in if you wanted it to be sort of slightly more separate. There's a private and a public folder, so you can have stuff compartmentalized inside your module, but still available for people to see through various means. Private is harder for people to find unless they know the exact path it's at already. And if you ever look at the line 2 on the right hand side, you can see that layout is referencing a page template which is inside the module compartment, because it's the main page. The page template is called main.liquid, but because it's inside module 150, it's namespaced where it's being referenced. That can catch people out. PS have done docs on it, but if you get stuck with the namespacing, just let us know. And yeah, that's so part of the security is that when you load a custom UI, it loads in an iframe, and the Siteglide admin passes an auth parameter through to sort of tell the code that it's got permission from admin to run. And if you're having multiple pages, so you can see on line 13, there's an anchor tag, you can basically pass that auth parameter on to the next page you link to, so that all the pages in your custom UI have permission from admin to run. And that basically lets them run for 2 weeks until you'd have to refresh the page and get new permission from the admin. So that's everything sort of that comes in the boilerplate with the main page. If you have a look at setup.json, Luke, this is optional. If you think the example we had earlier didn't, or a couple of them either just pulled in information from an external source and didn't need their own database, or maybe they were using the custom UI to edit web apps, so they didn't need their own module. But if you do want your own module, you can use the setup.json to easily set up one database table for your module. I think it's not officially on the roadmap yet, but would like in the future to be able to let you use this shortcut to create multiple tables associated with the one module. At the moment, it just allows one, and if you want to do multiple tables, there is another method which we can talk through, but it's more advanced. So the important bit here really is system fields. You can see in the boilerplate we've just included 4 to get you started that are pretty generic, but you can add as many as you like. Obviously, you just increment the number at the end using JSON format. And if you want to look at which field types are available, just search the developer docs for field types. And it'll give you the information on those. Some of the settings at the top are just for things like they just set the default settings for that module. So use standard fields, you can sort of turn the SEO fields on and off. Things like secure zone settings, they're all things you can edit yourself once the module's set up, but it just gives it an initial value.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, really helpful. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I'll stop sharing quickly just so that you guys can ask away if you have any questions. Obviously, it was hard to balance what to go through in one of these workshops. It's a new concept for a lot of people. There's the initial setup, and then there's the actual delving into what do you build. And from the examples we've seen, there's obviously quite a lot of different things that could be built. And we're thinking that we probably, when we go down when we finish the site builder route, and once you've got some sort of basic CRUD and all of the layouts available to build out easily, we would probably do the next session showcasing that, and maybe picking a very specific module that we have pre-built and then we kind of customize together. So maybe something like a gallery as an example. So yeah, I think we'd do that next time. But do you guys have any questions on the concepts of marketplace and modules and custom UI, or anything that you've seen that you'd like to get started on and have got stuck on before? Any questions at all?
All the documentation is all done online, right? On how to do this.
There are a lot of docs and there's a lot of tutorials. They do need a little bit of updating, and we're going to update them further as we do more of the site builder integration. So just quickly sharing my screen again. It's effectively,
That's how I learned the CLI, was on the docs, and it looks like I got another task to learn. It looks good.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
from the
nice. The customization is pretty cool.
Cool, good. Yeah, so from the boilerplate itself, we've got a link to the docs, but obviously you'd find it just by searching on the docs anyway. But we've got a whole section on sort of marketplace, building modules. It's worth going through this. I think what we'll do is we'll spend a little bit more time refining it based on some of the new setup that we've got. We've refined this boilerplate for you for this session, and then it's worth running through this and sort of getting familiar with all the different things that are different to building sites normally, I guess, and get familiar with modules. And then the next workshop will be about how to really kind of delve in and do more things. But yeah, you should find that you can get started with things like the folder structure that I mentioned earlier about putting the vanity module ID in. Yeah, all sorts of things. The best example, the most relevant example, is probably this one, where it talks about building out a data and custom UI module. But as I say, we'll definitely make sure it's as up to date and helpful as possible.
Yeah, we've been working, especially with Helen, who's been helping us find sort of pain points in using like forms to like Siteglide forms to edit your data in your module. We've basically got too much security at the moment. So building a custom UI is exactly the same as building a front-end web page, except that forms have too much security. So we're hoping to get that sorted as soon as possible. And that will be sort of the next step. And we'll kind of update the docs as that, as we work through that.
That actually brings me to a side question. I do have questions that are module specific, but to that point specifically, Matt, about the forms being too secure. So does that mean that allowing or setting up a page to allow people to update their own email address and password through like an editable form in a secure section like the my account area section, is that still very complex to do, or has that gotten easier?
So at the moment, basically, because forms aren't working in a custom UI, the answer that everybody has gone for so far is to use GraphQL, so you could have a form in HTML, and then when you click the submit button, JavaScript then sends a request to an API page, and then that runs GraphQL through with Liquid, and that does the mutation in the database and updates the email address, the password, that kind of thing. So that at the moment works, and we've got lots of working examples to show you, but obviously GraphQL is something that has its own docs. We've got our own tutorials on the developers for like learning to do that. But what we want to do is make that no longer a requirement, because forms are just so much quicker to get yourself set up with for a lot of the different tasks that you need when building a module, custom UI. So
that process wouldn't necessarily be different than, say, it was 3 years ago, you know? So I have that capability on one client site, but I need it on another client site as well. So should I just copy what is on the one site to the other, or go to the docs and just start over?
is that in a custom UI at the moment?
No, this is like when somebody logs into my account area through, to a secure zone,
Secure
for
zone.
example.
Oh, then
Yeah.
it's absolutely fine. Like there's no problem with forms in that context. So you can continue to use that code, and there's no need to update it. Does that help?
Yeah. So that process sounds similar. So back to my modules question, Luke. So is everything that you just showed us, or a good portion of what you just showed us on building our own modules, is that what you guys used to do and now we can do it ourselves? Or is there still a sort of quality control / approval process that has to go through before a module is actually available, if you will?
Yes, so you can do all of what I've just shown, and you can create the end results that we've demoed, like Michael's and Devon's. Uh, there is an approval process for modules on the marketplace, but it's only just coming to us, and we talk to you very quickly. And it's more quality control. It's more to make sure that there's some useful docs or a video, and just to make sure that things just work. So it's a positive reason.
It only happens at the stage where you want to make your module available for everybody on the marketplace, whether paid or not. So you can use it on your own sites to your heart's content, and we don't even need there's no approval process. It's only when you share it with everybody, and that the approval process begins.
Oh, okay.
To show you, you've got a button for publicly viewable, so you can decide whether people can see it. You've got a button whether people can install it, and then we just need to approve it, basically. And that's just a process. We discuss it with you, and I'm sure if you said, look, it doesn't need docs because of this, we're not strict on it, as long as it's a positive addition to the marketplace for other users to use.
Right. Yeah.
It also protects you, so when you install a module from the marketplace, it's not going to be somebody nobody knows who's installed some malware. There's like obviously, we're going to know the partners that are on the call. We're going to probably give them but if it's somebody who don't know at all, they can't just install with nobody checking it at all.
Oh, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To give an example, it's a bit of a mix at the moment. Site gurus have been involved in a good number of them, and therefore we can obviously make sure that there's no issues there. We know what's in there. And then some, like Helen's, for example, Helen's worked with us directly to work through any feature additions and make sure that they're all good to go live. So it's just a normal process, really, just quality control.
Sounds good.
Good. Helen's messaged me saying that I think you asked about the analytics module, DJ, but Helen wanted to let everybody know that she's very happy to install that for anybody who's on the webinar if they're interested in using it. So do reach out to Helen and she'll help with that.
Yeah, give her about 15 or 20 minutes though before you reach out.
Is that to have yours done?
Yes.
Maybe 30.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions from anybody on anything to do with this, really?
Looks good.
Cool. I think just to clarify the point on kind of what you raised, DJ, about what's now and what's coming. as Matt said, you can use it right now. You can build all the things that you've seen and more. It's just you're effectively using GraphQL more than we would like you to have to do. When we have Siteglide forms and Site Builder implemented the way we want, which is hopefully not that far away, you will be able to do things more easily and more normally as to how you're used to building a normal site. You can still go the GraphQL route. You probably still will for certain things, as you do with sites normally. So there's no reason not to do it now, as in it's not like it's changing and it will all be redundant. It's just it's going to get easier and a bit more integrated with Siteglide.
Yeah, that's right. Like I use GraphQL all the time, but when I'm building custom UI, and if I just want the same thing I always want when I'm building custom UI, which is the ability to add a new module item with lots of fields, it's quite a lot of work to build the add query, the add mutation, the edit mutation. It takes time and it makes the module more of a big undertaking to build. And so even I would like forms in there just to do those big generic jobs that they need to do. And then I would love to then use GraphQL for things like if I've got a drag and drop UI where I'm organizing hierarchy, I want to just have a quick JS event which fires off and say, oh, this one's been dragged, just update this one number, which is its position. And that's where a GraphQL mutation is really good at just doing a very quick thing, specific little role. And that's where I'd like to use them more. So you've got that boilerplate of add, edit, delete, all working, and then you can build on that from there.
So right now, publishing my own module puts it in my marketplace, kind of, sort of sorts. So when I go click marketplace out of my admin menu or whatever, any module that I build would be listed there. But once we check those other public things, you know, and it gets approved and all that, that's when it shows up for everybody's marketplace, right?
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, we have a couple of modules which are just for specific clients on specific sites, and nobody else will be interested because it's so specific. And then we have others that are public ones.
Yeah. So that's what you were saying in a previous call, Luke, where if there was something that we wanted to build to make it easier for ourselves, you know, the repetitive things, you know, we could make that into a module. And then that way, when we're spinning up a new website instance, we just go to the marketplace to install that thing to just make it that much easier, on ourselves.
Exactly that. So this symbol saying only visible to module owner, what we're going to try and do though is make it a little bit, it's probably only a UX thing really, but you don't want to feel like you have to build a full-blown marketplace module when you just want to build a very quick thing per site. So we'll try and make it two-step process. Basically, you build something small and then you can release it on the marketplace if you want to. Just got it the wrong way around probably currently.
Well, that would also be a good way to kind of test and debug and fine tune your own module. You know, you just use it for yourself and work out all the bugs until you really get it polished, and then you can release it to the public.
So to be clear, that process is already there. You can already do just your own modules and not share them with anybody. We're just going to make it a little bit more sense, because it feels at the moment like you're building a marketplace module for everybody, whereas that's only one option. You don't have to release it to everybody.
There's another good point about sort of trying your module out before it's released. Imagine you've already released it and you want to try out a new feature. It is also possible to use Siteglide CLI to deploy when the module's already installed through GitHub and through all the process, you can just deploy a temporary version of that module to one of your sites to test it out with Siteglide CLI. So you don't have to make that change public to everybody until you're happy with it. So that is an option as well.
Cool.
Just one more thing I wanted to show, and then over to you guys for any more questions, and I'm conscious of everybody's time, but just to give you an idea of what we mean by what's coming with the Site Builder route. So if you're not too familiar with Site Builder, these are layouts that you can install typically onto Siteglide modules and functionality. The relevance here is that, let's imagine you're trying to do the booking system, vacation rentals. You might want a table of bookings. So let's just go down a little bit further. We've got a table already in Site Builder, a Flowbyte based one. It's got a lot of features and functionality on it. We want you to be able to install that into your module, or add that layout into a module, and then do things like, let's go to forms quickly. Being able to go to the module, add the module update form, add the module create form. So rather than having to do all of this from scratch and use GraphQL, which you'd have to do at the moment, not only can you use Siteglide forms, but you'll be able to use Site Builder forms, which automatically update and have the layout. So if you added this to, if you added this layout, as we know, it dynamically auto updates any form changes. So you could build a really basic form, and then as you adapt your module and build more fields, the layout will automatically update. And that's I think that's a massive time saver feature that we want to make available as part of modules as well. So we're just trying to expand what we've already got that saves people time into modules, and just make it quick and easy to build. Because the quicker we make it, the more cost effective it is for you to build modules, and therefore the more viable it is on a client project, maybe. I hope that makes sense.
Where would be the option there, Luke, to use that example, to assign your own custom CSS to the styling of the fields and stuff?
Exactly the same as normal, really. So let's say you were using Flowbyte or SoftUI, doesn't matter which, and you pick a layout from Site Builder or a few layouts. You then have the global styling to update, so either the config file in Tailwind or the just SAS file, SAS variables for Bootstrap, or you can just add your own custom CSS as well. So it's exactly the same as normal. We're just getting that ecosystem, if you like, the Site Builder ecosystem, into modules as well, so that everything works exactly the same as it now does.
Yeah, you probably want to basically have a separate CSS file for your custom UI, because you don't want to change style on your custom UI and it updates the end website that your end customers are using. So you want to keep those two separate, and you can namespace that CSS file within modules 150 assets, and you can put it in there, and then it won't show up on your client site. It'll just show within that custom UI.
That'll be the same currently, though, for yours, I imagine, Michael. Josh will have set it up so that there's CSS for your custom UI completely separate to the front end of the website.
Yeah, because he's using a lot of CSS from the website itself. So
fantastic. Why not? But yeah, you could easily run them completely separately as well. So yeah.
Yeah, especially when your module is public and being installed on multiple sites. Like if it's just for one site, you might use the same styling to make it branded. But if you're installing multiple sites, you want it to be definitely separate, because they're not going to have the same brand.
That's a good point, actually. I know on Devon's, I think I showed you that it had his logo in the custom UI bit. That was pulling through from company information. So he and Josh set it up that way because it's just nice and easy. So you can use as much or as little as you like of Siteglide functionality. You literally have full control, as you do when building a normal website. Would I be right in saying, Matt, there's nothing really that different about building a module other than you're containerizing it? There's just a few differences with how you have to namespace it and contain it in a module.
Yeah, that's right. Like theoretically, there should be no difference. You're just packaging it into a container. And the other reason for doing that is that with marketplace modules, the user can delete them. And so everything inside your modules folder is deletable. whereas everything in the marketplace folder is not part of that delete. Yeah, the forms are the one exception, and we're trying to work on them to make them not an exception. But the reason for that is that the cookie that Platformware sets to basically authorize form submissions is being blocked, because inside the Siteglide admin it becomes a third-party cookie, whereas normally on your site it would be a first-party cookie, because the admin has a different domain. So that's the only reason we're struggling at the moment. Yeah, but we'll get that sorted.
Without adding complexity, there are a few things like that we've been working through. So the ability, Michael, this has probably come up for your one with Josh, but the ability to click through into things within CustomUI, that's been a relatively recent advancement that we've been working on, allowing you to stay within the CustomUI rather than having to link out somewhere else. So we're always working through those kind of things, but from your perspective, we're just going to make it work like anything else. That's the plan.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else on this topic, or anything else on any other topics? So sort of open floor.
This was
Okay.
a lot of information.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, we're recording. The other session was pretty similar, I guess. We covered the same things, but obviously people had different questions and stuff, so it might be worth catching up on that. We discussed some e-commerce changes at the end of the previous one as well, but yeah, got the recordings should you need them. We'll always be around on Discord and live chat and tickets as well if you guys get started and have any questions, and we'll be working on the docs and videos, and we'll keep you updated on forms and the site things as well.
So for now, is this demo on the modules the best video to refer to, or is there already kind of a module building specific video available somewhere?
I think this is the best video, but we have obviously got the docs for like a written reference, and probably need a bit of both. Start with the video to get the general idea, and then when you get to each step, might be helpful to have the written record. And we'll be constantly improving the written version as well.
Yeah, there was obviously an amount of work to get us to the demo today, and we want to spend some time after this doing what we didn't get time to do, which would be, yeah, finalize those docs. And I would like to see us have a sort of slick finished video that I'll probably do. The concept of me demoing it was, if I can do it, I think pretty much anybody can do it. So I'm going to try and stick with that philosophy and make it as simple as we can. So you should see a video soon of me doing the whole thing, and it working fully for starters.
Sounds good.
Good. Well, yeah, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time. I know it's been quite a long one. We'll still continue to do these workshops alternating if people value them, if they're of interest. So yeah, keep an eye out for what's up next and let us know any ideas.
Thank you.
Sounds
Great.
good.
Thanks everyone. Speak
Thanks,
soon.
guys. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.